of multimodal instructional methods to encourage attention and focus in developing bilingual first graders. To give you some background, I worked at Woodbury Elementary School. It's a dual language immersion school in Marshalltown, Iowa. It has about 322 students, and it's a K through 4 school. And so what dual language immersion school means is that the students spend about half of their time learning in Spanish and about half of their time learning in English. And it's a magnet school, so kids can come from all over the town to attend the school even if they're not in the area. 75% of the students who attend Woodbury come from a Hispanic or Latino background, and this is in contrast with what the 2000 census says about Marshalltown as a whole, and that's 12.5% of the population come from Latino or Hispanic backgrounds. And 90% of my students were part of the free and reduced price lunch program. So when I started working with my students and observing other people working with the students, I was trying to develop a research question, something that I could ask and investigate throughout my project. And so I started out by just observing and noticing through me observing others and me looking at myself that just talking to the students is an effective way of communicating with them, because it's really easy for attention to wander and focus to wander when you're just talking. So I decided that I would try to incorporate images and pictures, drawings into everything that I did with the kids. However, that too wasn't really effective enough. It might have helped some of the kids to understand a little bit more, but kids that weren't paying attention for other reasons because they were distracted or other things were going on, it didn't really help draw them into the lesson. So I started to think about what my goals are as a teacher. What am I trying to do with these kids? And I decided that one of my goals was to provide a stimulus-rich environment in which the students can learn, so that they really have no choice but to pay attention, so that they want to pay attention. And so I developed the question, how can I use multimodal instructional methods in the classroom to encourage the attention and focus of a group of bilingual first grade students? And then within that overarching big question, I developed some smaller sub-questions looking at specific methods that I could use when teaching. And one of my questions was, how can I use student involvement and expertise and a method that I call Help Me Teach to encourage the attention and focus of the students? So when I say help me teach, I mean that the students would come up to the front of the room and they would help me teach either by demonstrating something or role-playing or acting something out. And another one of my questions was, how can I use music to encourage attention and focus in my students in the classroom activities? And so music could consist of music that we were singing together or music that we were listening to on a pre-recorded device. And then my final question connects to what my initial goals were in incorporating the images, and I asked, how can I use real objects as visual cues in conjunction with the other modal methods discussed above to maintain the student attention and focus? So I'm going to talk now about kind of some of the theoretical backgrounds that I was coming from. I was thinking a lot about Vygotsky and his conception of the zone of proximal development. So for Vygotsky, the ZPD is the place in which a student, can be a child or an adult, but the student is able to demonstrate a specific skill or knowledge when assisted by a more knowledgeable other. And without the help of this more knowledgeable other, the student would not be able to demonstrate these abilities or skills. And as Vygotsky conceived of it, the zone of proximal development consists of two people, the more knowledgeable other, which can be an adult or a peer, and the student. And the more knowledgeable other gives some scaffolding, allows the student to helps the student to understand the concept or come up with the idea. And this idea, Mullen Whitmore kind of developed more this idea in their collective zone of proximal development. And the collective zone of proximal development, it encompasses the entire classroom, and there are lots of different zones of development throughout the school day. The students participate sometimes as the more knowledgeable other and sometimes as student. So this gives all students the opportunity to demonstrate their knowledge and their strengths. And this is a really important concept for me in my classrooms because I think that all students do have different strengths and different places in which they excel. And that they can all help their peers when they're covering different topics that they understand with more ability than other topics. So all students are given the opportunity to be the more knowledgeable other at certain points. And I also, in conjunction with the multimodal methods that I'm talking about, that comes from the idea of the multiliteracies, and multiliteracies being the ways in which you can represent what's typically or traditionally people think of as just reading and writing with books and things like that. But the multiliteracies encompass all of these different things. They encompass different media like computers, but they also encompass music and different three-dimensional objects and the ability to participate in drama to demonstrate knowledge and things such as that. So Paul and Wing define literate thought as the ability to reflect upon information, solve problems, or develop other higher-level thinking skills. And so, in other words, what they're saying is that literate thought includes the skills undertaken when one critically reads a book or views a movie, something like that. So what I wanted was for my students to participate in literate thought, but not just using the modes of reading and writing. Because if they were required to demonstrate their knowledge and understanding through just writing and reading, they wouldn't be able to demonstrate what they really know and understand because they're in first grade and they're just learning how to write. So I wanted my students to demonstrate this literate thought through the different modes that we're talking about, through music and through drama and through different multimedia crafted things that we were doing. And then Hobbs and Mesa and Williams all talk about the benefits of multiliteracies in regards to people who are learning a language. So this can encompass both people who are learning a second or other language, but also those who are just learning their first language. We're all continuously learning English as we speak it and as we use it. And additionally, they think that multiliteracies are really beneficial for people learning a new dialect of the same language as well. So I'm going to define two of the words that I use a lot, or the phrases I use a lot. When I talk about the multimodal methods, what I'm really referring to is the use of many different educational strategies, including those which value the use of listening to teachers and peers, and speaking to teachers and peers, and learning using lots of different visual aids, including drawings and photographs and charts and actual physical objects, and moving the body and reading and writing and drawing and manipulating the physical objects that you can actually touch. And when I talk about attention and focus, I use the phrase attention and focus to mean that the students are somehow demonstrating to me that they are participating in the activities going on. So if students are attending and focusing to what's going on, I might see them looking at me. That doesn't necessarily mean they're listening, but it can demonstrate that they might be listening. And also, if they're chatting when they're not supposed to be chatting, are they talking about things on topic that we're talking about in class? If so, that demonstrates that they are attending to what's going on, even if they're chatting with a friend when they're not supposed to be. And also, do students react appropriately to things going on in class? If something funny happens, do they laugh? Do they demonstrate that they were listening? And are they able to demonstrate that they were paying attention through the work that they create, either alone or with partners or interactions they have with others? So the participants I worked with were 43 of the 45 students in my classes. Those that returned the permission forms. The forms were sent home in Spanish or in English, depending upon the parents' preferences. 24 of those who participated are considered Spanish dominant, and 19 are considered English dominant, and that's based upon tests they take and the reading class in which they're placed. And 28 of my participants were female, and 15 were male.